Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. This Washington County Board of County Commissioners now in session pursuant to adjournment. Honorable Chairman Greg Manley presiding, remain standing and come to order.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our first order of business this evening is the prayer and pledge. Our prayer will be led by Commissioner Williams, and our pledge will be led by Commissioner Ford.
Father, we thank you that you are allowing us to be a part of this commission in Washington County. We ask that you guide our decisions and use it to help our area. Yeah, we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Commissioner Ford,
Me.
if you'll lead us, please.
Let's honor America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Ford. I may have caught you off guard there just a moment. All right, our next item is the roll call. Do we have our roll call screen up, Madam Clerk? All right, if you'll indicate your presence here this evening. Madam Clerk, Commissioner Harris might be here later, but he had some urgent business to attend to. All right, we have 14 present, 1 absent. And we do have a quorum. All right, our next item is our approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion made by Commissioner Fitzgerald, seconded by Commissioner Light to approve the agenda. Do you have any discussion or questions about the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. And the motion passes, and the agenda is approved. We'll now recess in for public comment portion. Each person that has previously signed up to address an item of the agenda will receive 3 minutes to speak. Each of these individuals that's already signed up, and when they come forward to the podium, if they'll give their name and address to the clerk, they'll start their 3 minutes of time. Our first item is Robin Barker. Robin, if you'll come forward to the podium.
Robin Barker, 258 Hamilton Road, Chelsea. I am here because I feel that the commissioners and the county have caused a hardship on my mother, who will be 83 Thursday. She leaves her house, goes and takes to a granddaughter's house 7:30 in the morning to take care of a great-grandchild. She stays till 2, and then she goes to Sioux City to work. You have asked for a barn to be tore down. We tore the barn down. Everything was out in the open then. So people came in, sold 3 lawnmowers, sold the batteries out of the tractors. Since you asked us to tear the barn down, we did. Who's going to pay to rebuild a barn? Put that stuff back in. You asked for a smoke house to be tore down. It was tore down. You asked for 7 cars to be moved. They have been moved. Whoever took these 4 cars to the junkyard, kept the money, didn't even give her any of the money for the cars. You asked for the underpinning to be moved off of a camper. It's been done. Some of you have asked why it has taken so long for this to be done. She has a son on disability. She has a son who works 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. She has a daughter who is working on getting a kidney transplant. She has a daughter who had 2 knee replacements last year. The son-in-law, who does most of the work, has been taking care of his elderly parents for 2 years. His mother will have passed away 2 years in December. His father just passed away this past September, so he has been able to help more. Him and I both have had COVID. He was out of work for 3 weeks. My Bible says to take care of the good lady. And I feel that you have caused a hardship in all of your campaigns. I don't remember seeing we are here to create a hardship on families and communities. What I seen was we are here to help the community. Now tell me, Steve Lott has helped. He has offered to get jailers to come, but was denied. He has offered to get workers to come and help. So can you please see that we have done and met everything you have asked, and could you please drop this? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. All right, our next person to speak is Mike Brules. Mike, if you'll come forward to the podium, please.
My name is Mac Rose. I live at 1217 Corbin Ridge Road, Chucky, which is in Washington County. I've not been able to help clean up my mother's place because I did and still work at Burke Rubber down here, burnt down in January. The only day I have had off since the fire is March the 3rd, which is to be tested for COVID-19. All this started over a church wanting to buy a building off Miss Rose. And when she denied it, so this ball got started rolling, county getting involved on her property cleaned up. I've got some news for the church, news for the commission. Ms. Rolls is not selling her building. You seen fit for her to have to sell it, she'll probably give it away to another church. But we're God-fearing people. We believe in God and what the Bible says. The Bible says take care of your widows. It says take care of your neighbors. And what they're doing and what somebody's doing is not very neighborly, because if you don't love God, you don't love your neighbor.
Thank you, Matt. All right, our next speaker is Roger Barker. Roger, if you want to come forward to the podium, please.
My name's Roger Barker. That's my mother-in-law, 358 Sam Lake Road, where I live. And it's like I said, you know, hey, when you really think about it, 30, almost, I think in September, it'll be 30 years she's been a widow. You know, there's really not been a man, you know, to help her. And you can say what you want. A man, a husband can do a lot, you know, I mean, and sometimes he can hinder, sometimes, you know what I mean about stuff coming in, if you with me on that. So, anyway, so like I said, that, you know, it's all been said. Hopefully you went by, hopefully somebody went by and seen the work we have done. And, you know, really, to me, the work that's been done speaks for itself. That's what we got to do. Just go look, and if there's something else needs to be done, let us know. We try our best to get it done. Try to do what you say. That's all I do.
All right, thank you very much, Roger. Mary, I think you had signed up as our final speaker. Mary Kinley. I'm sorry, Mary. I couldn't make that last name out.
My name's Mary Kimley. I live at 105 Priest Court South. Sorry, kind of close to Mother Street, Jonesburg, Tennessee. My mother, she's on this property 59 years. her and my father had so many children that they couldn't raise my own little house where they started, so I got this really good deal. And my other father had his property, and then my father passed away very unexpectedly 30 years ago this year. A lot of the garbage that some people don't know what they're talking about, but anyway, I'll say excess vehicles, farm equipment, trailers. A lot of that was there when my father passed away. And my mother has worked 2 jobs for over 25 years. Most recently taking care of one of my grandchildren. But she has worked 2 jobs, like I say, for over 25 years. And doesn't have a lot of extra spare time. She's also farmed. She's farmed that property even after my father passed away. And up until not many years ago, she had to go ahead and kind of get rid of the cattle for a while because she was having problems keeping them fenced in, couldn't keep the farm going. But she's thinking about doing it again. But the stress of this cleanup has brought a lot on my mother. I don't know, some of y'all have seen her before. Yeah, she's on the walker tonight, and no, it's not for show. She has had to go. She is having problems with her hip and leg. Has some medication for it. We have got papers to prove it. It's not show. She's had sleepless nights. It's caused other health issues. As Mr. Robin said, we've done pretty much everything that's been asked. We can remove the propane gas tank that, said it made the RV camper look permanent. It's gone. So everything's gone. This has been such a hardship on my mother. It's also been a hardship on our family. And as she said, we've got a sister on disability looking for a transplant. Got another brother on disability. This brother works 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Robin, who keeps her grandchildren and sits with other family members, has also had knee problems. I've had 2 knee replacements in the past year. My husband's been in and out of the hospital the past 5 years many times. It's not funny. But, it's not about that. This is about my mother and her property. And the people that started. And my mother used to mow the yard for that church. And he used to have a bigger yard. She even was the security at times on weekends. People don't think about that. They wanted something and they didn't get it. And they're taking it out on my mother. Would you
Mary?
want this to happen to your family?
Mary, I hate to interrupt you, but your time's expired, and we appreciate you coming down. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that'll conclude our public hearing portion this evening. We'll move back into regular session. As we move back into regular session, at this time, I'd like to ask Dana Jones to come forward. Dana has been selected as our new Administrator of Elections here in Washington County. Alongside her this evening are Gary McAllister. He's our new Election Commission Chairman. Gary, if you both want to come up to the podium in just a moment. And Gary, you're going to have to introduce yourself again,
Gary McAllister, I'm the new Chair of the Election Commission. Thought I got rid of it, but I'm back.
Dana, if you'd like to say a few words, introduce yourself, let the commission know who you are.
I'm the new election administrator for Washington County. I welcome all of you to come and visit this week and look around our office and just talk to you about the plans that we have for the future to help drive Washington County to a great election we have.
All right, we appreciate all the great work you're doing, and I can't look forward to working with you both very soon. Thank you all so much. All right, in your packet this evening, you'll find the planning and zoning minutes. I don't see Angie here with us tonight. If you have any questions, please feel free to direct them to Angie, but those minutes are in your packet. Our next item tonight, we do have some very special recognition. Mayor Grandy, I think we have a resolution to present. Harmon, if you'll come forward up to the podium, you and Ruth there, and come on forward. We have something special we'd like to present you this evening. You got it.
This is a special time. So,
If, Mayor, do you want to have the board members and the fire chiefs come forward up here too?
exactly, but there's more than 911 members that are here to step forward, fire chief, any representatives from the sheriff's department you'd like to stand up here and be recognized.
Yes, Randall, that means you. And Tim.
Gentlemen, would y'all like to step up here? Well, it's always special to recognize when super friends, long-term friends, in Washington County, and doing anything that's important to a lot of people. Without further ado, this is in recognition of Chief Harmon D. Mathis. Whereas service is the greatest gift of all, and whereas Harmon Mathis, known as Dee, is a lifelong resident of Campsite community and he served Washington County professionally as a member of the Washington County Sheriff's Office from 1999 to 2020. And whereas it is his gift, the use of his gifts and strengths outside his professional role to demonstrate his will to help others in Washington County. Harmon D. Mathis shines as an example of what it means to be of service in and to the community. And whereas, in conjunction with taking an active part in building himself and his community, he became a Mason in 1982, belonging to Lodge 489, became a Shriner in 1984, belonging to the Fidel Temple in Knoxville, and became a member of the Order of the Eastern Star Limestone in 262. And whereas, recognizing the need for fire protection in our geographic area, he was one of the organizers and instrumental in starting the Mississippi Valley Volunteer Fire Department in 1972, where he became chief in 1974 and remained chief until his retirement in 2008. And whereas he was also instrumental in starting the Washington County Fire Chiefs Association in the mid-1970s, representing the Noah Chucky Valley Volunteer Fire Department on that association until his retirement. And whereas he was on the steering committee that led to Washington County having an enhanced 911 operation capable of providing public safety dispatch services to county residents. And in November 1986, was named one of Washington County Emergency Communication District's original board members, where he served in February 2021. With membership on a number of committees, including dressing, building, and ethics, culminating in the leadership role as board chairman from November 2014 to 2021. And whereas he was on the foundation board of John M. Lee Nursing Home, and whereas he was a member of the Tax Abatements Church, serving as deacon and Sunday school superintendent, And whereas one of the greatest gifts of service is inspiration to others. Now therefore, we proclaim by the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Tennessee, that we do hereby recognize Chief Foreman Judy Mathis for his dedication and service to the citizens of Washington County by recognizing the vital needs in the community and working with others to find the means to meet those needs while serving as a leader and inspiration to others. Awesome. Congratulations. Thank you.
Do we,
I have a retirement flat to give you duty. And I tell you a little story, you don't want to be standing on the other side of the house and do you as the water. Because I look like I was inside the house and burned up and we ain't got done. It's been my privilege and all our privilege to work with you for so many years. What this reads, thank you for your 21 years of dedicated service to the citizens of Washington County. 1999 to 2020. Deputy Sheriff Armand Duty Matt, Washington County Sheriff's Office, appreciate the difference you have made and congratulations and happy retirement. Last verse is blessed are the peacemakers, which they shall be called the children of God. Matthew 5:9. Dude, fantastic friend to everybody, and I appreciate you. I really appreciate you all. I'm honored why the sheriff will be up here.
Yeah. And that was thanks to Charlie Baines' duty. There's been a lot of people trying to figure out how to get you here tonight. Ruth, do not count her out in this. Ruth was a tremendous help, and thank you, Ruth, for all you've done to get us duty his proclamation. But we do need a motion to approve his proclamation. A motion by Commissioner Ford, a second by Commissioner Edens. All in favor of that proclamation signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. The proclamation passes. Congratulations, Duty. Thank you for all you've done for our county. Duty, would you like to say something this evening before you leave? We've got your microphone here. We're not going to let you off that easy. You know, Ruth's got you under control there. She'll.
I just want to thank everybody, and it's been something I go all my life to help people in any way I could. And one of the greatest persons to come to me is Ruth in my life.
Amen.
She put up with me for 40-some years. She used to be the dispatcher for the fire department before we had 911. She's helped me a lot. Anything we've always done, and ask God to be first.
Yeah.
That He'll lead the way, and let us follow, and things will be all right. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you, Duty. All right. All right, that'll conclude our proclamations this evening. We do have some minutes that were for you to consider. That's the March 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Do we have a motion? Motion made by Commissioner Tester.
Chairman, the only thing on the second version that was sent out was pages 8 and 9 were reversed.
All right. So do we need to amend that? Yeah, just, okay.
Approving with that correction.
Those minutes, those have a motion with those corrections. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Carragher. Any further questions or discussion about the minutes? That's been the toughest set of minutes we've done in a year, hasn't it, Sherry? All right, all in favor of approving those minutes signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign, and the minutes are accepted and approved. All right, our next item is a report of the county officials, county mayor, Mayor Grandy.
Might be used. So we were made, so at that time, on August 24th, following that, the commission approved authorization to apply for grants. At that time, they requested commission, public, anyone who had an interest or suggestions as to projects, because these projects had to be submitted, they had to be approved, and then of course implemented and paid for so that we can file for reimbursement. All of that needed to take place in around 130 days. So it was kind of rock and rolling for a while. Approval process was developed by the state they engaged a firm called Horn LLC to administer the first 3 rounds of approval. The final round was an approval process at the comptroller's office. So each project went through 4 rounds of approval before we got the approval number to start the project. So having said all that, that was the process. And oh, by the way, after that, we went into weekly seminars to understand how the process would work, how the rules might be applied, and the rules changed no less than 11 times during that process. So it was a continually moving target, but generally improved through the course of the effort. So in trying to think about projects, some were submitted as suggestions and tried to incorporate those, and also being mindful of this commission's interest in 3 primary areas around communication, workforce, and water, fire protection. We looked at projects that might fit those bills. Commissioner Wheeler was instrumental in insisting that we at least make an attempt to get a water project. And glad you did, because while that didn't seem to be a logical fit for funds that had to be used for some type of coronavirus recovery effort or support, we found a way to make it happen. Among the things that were implemented in terms of projects for the county, first we've got to divide these in different groups. So under communication, one of the big needs for the county was information. So we submitted a project for a new website that was approved. Among the things that it could do, you have at your place tonight, you notice a Civic Ready tab where individuals in the community can sign up to receive text messages for concerns, could be weather, could be imminent danger of some sort, could just generally be warnings. But for anyone who's interested, they can sign up for that. Additionally, we added a communication monitoring analysis piece, which helps understand how effective the communications are that are being pushed out. Video arraignment was something that surfaced fairly soon, and as you traveled around the Justice Center, you've seen many technology changes that were able to be covered.
This report was really informative and really speaks to just a lot of work that you've done over the last several months. And I saw a headline recently that said a lot of elected officials, especially mayors, are like ready to quit because it's been so tough. And handling the fires has been hard enough, but proactively working and trying to get creative about these funds is also a lot of work, and I appreciate that. So thank you for the report.
I'm really not sure how I skipped over one of the most interesting projects that Commissioner Wheeler suggested that I was really didn't have a whole lot of confidence in initially. One, water projects typically, if you're thinking about starting one and getting it done in 130 days, you get equipment on something, right? Or you can get it done. But we did have an opportunity working with our partners in Kingsport. They happen to have a crew available and a project that had already been pre-engineered. This water project extension and upgrade on Logan Chapel Road. And it turns out that Logan Chapel upgrade was one of the precursors to 3, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 other projects in that area around it. So it really fit the bill. We've got a few more customers, I believe, but more importantly, upgraded the section of land that allows other lands to be developed that are on our projects list by Tyson or Hampton. So if it were not for Commissioner Wheeler's suggestion and insistence, I would have not have given a lot of opportunity for a water project, but somehow we were able to convince the foreign folks that having bad water is also a bad thing for folks dealing with COVID. Ultimately, they agreed, got the project going. Kingsport team had a little bit of a problem because they had the team got COVID and they were off. But eventually, we got a little bit of an extension allowed to get it complete and it's done. And so yeah, that's one water project checked off the list and it was done with money that came from the government. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your staff as well as working on that project. I know Mitch at times, I would call Mitch and ask him a question. And I think that was quite a job that nobody realized it was going to be until you started doing the submissions. But thank you all very much. All right, our next report is our county attorney's report. Ms. Wilkinson, she decided to stay on the floor this evening till she got her report done. I think it was something I had done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your request, at your request, yes, I'm here this evening with your annual IDB pilot project update. And this is specifically to the Washington County Industrial Development Board projects. I've left, or Teresa was kind enough to distribute with each of you a memo. And I'll just kind of step through that and then take any questions. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. I love my work, so I may drone on too much, so I'll try to watch your faces if I've talked too long about it. But for starters, just to remind you that I'm not here as an advocate. You're the decision makers. I'm here tonight to report to you, having reviewed the contracts and the performance requirements and applying those standards to the facts as they were monitored by the county attorney's office. So that's really what I'm doing. And then just to step back, so you're the decision makers. Y'all approved these pilots over a number of years. So just for starters, an IDB is a statutory entity that's set up under the Tennessee Code to organize industrial development, promote industry, develop trade, and create additional job opportunities to the citizens of the county. So there are 9 members of your Washington County IDB. They actually meet this month. They meet Wednesday, I think, at 9 a.m. These are public meetings, of course. And they are voters and taxpayers of the county. That's what the qualifications are. They're elected, they're appointed by you, the legislative body. So just turning to the way that the authority is delegated, this commission, over the past few years, has approved a number of them. And with each one, you've delegated authority to the IDB to do something in particular. Johnson City, for example, has a blanket delegation of its authority. Alicia Summers presents those Johnson City IDB pilots to you. I think it was November 2020 when she reported the last ones. There are 2 pilots that have rolled out of the full term of their agreement. One is Nakatetsu, you probably remember that, and I thought you might be interested to know that in tax year 2020, not are they just paying 100% of what it would be, they're paying their taxes, and they totaled for both property tax and real property and personal property, their taxes for last year were $83,209. So that is an entity that you formally approved a pilot project back on the tax roll, and that's what they're paying in personal and real property. Currently, there are 3 property tax abatements in place through Washington County's IDB. They are Dent Supply, which was formerly known as and approved as JCM International, Hoyo, and EBM Past. This commission, with the exception of, I suppose, Commissioners Pate and Commissioner Huffine, was approved by this legislative body seated. So just stepping back, if I may, in November of 2018, the county attorney's office implemented a new process to increase communication between the offices of the assessor, the mayor, and the trustee, who are all integral members to an efficient and reliable program. Thank you, Mayor Brandy. When I brought that recommendation to the county, he was really supportive of changing things up because of trying to make sure that we had a process that was monitoring the pilots efficiently and reliably. So that was our first year, and that was to kind of bring together these different offices that all have a role in these pilots after you approve them, but the statutes don't give them a checklist of what they have to do to make sure that everything is being met. So that was year 2018. 2019, then, we folded in an excellent resource that we had been using, which is our paralegal, Teresa Stutz. So she came in, and then for this past year, when we were reviewing them, we took the lessons learned from the year before, and we all came together with the help of the trustee's office and made one template in the county attorney's office, which then we gave to the trustee and the assessor. We did all the information, and every company got a notice of what its payment would be. And they didn't have the pilot, then we took the deduction of the abatement at 80%. We paid basically, I guess, we showed our work, and then we sent that to the companies. And then just for sake of good order, the county attorney's office also worked with the trustee to make sure all those taxes were in fact paid. And I'm happy to report to you that they are. So also in that process, we started working more closely with Alicia Summers, whom of course you know, and she was our connection to the companies because for whatever reason, people don't like to get a call from a lawyer. And so she was really great at helping that relationship that, you know, do you need with help, do you need this form, where are we, and developing all of that so that we could all stay in touch together, and then the cooperation of the offices. So I'm super grateful to all of them. We really have been doing this as a team. So this is a big, high-level overview of the 3 county IDB projects. But at this point, I wanted you to know the process so that you could have a better understanding of when you approve them, what's going on down the pipe. So as I said, Alicia Summers gave you the update in November 2020. She talked about the Johnson City pilots. I've listed those in your memo. And then I've got the 3 ones here, and I've taken them in chronological order. You can flip through them in the memo if you like. There's 3. 2 of them are in the industrial, well, let me just take a picture. Koyo is the first one. This one goes back to 2006. So it would normally have been all the way done at 100% and back on the tax roll, but one of the terms that was negotiated in that, and remember each one is different, each pilot agreement is different, individually negotiated. That one had a very special term that I understand from experts in the field is not always there, which is a qualified expansion. Qualified expansion, which was actually defined in the agreement, but just to mean that if certain things happened and they were going to expand in a certain way, they could continue out. And what it was a $5 million investment. I think it had to also increase the space. And so Koyo opted for that. They've had 2 qualified expansions. They did have to happen within the first 10 years. So that was a 2016 cap on that. So big picture on the performance requirements there. I know that's what you always look at with these incentives. And this was employment. And so I've given you a screenshot here. This one has to report January 31st of every year. I don't know who has the clicker. And if you don't, it's just move on to the memo. You'll see a little snap. There you go. Thank you. So see where it has that. That is what the report looks like. And it comes with backup right where that arrow is. That's an actual screenshot of the report, which they give at the end of January. And it's for the calendar year ending December. That's why I'm here at this time of year. One of your committees thought that with most of the county IDB due dates being January 31st, it'd be good to come at this time so you've got 2 times of the year. So you may be interested to know that they had a requirement of a certain number of jobs, and then they actually are over that number. So they have got 61% over. They're supposed to have 100 full-time jobs, employees, reported each year, beginning in 2013, and right now they are at 161. So that's even increased from last year. I reported that number to you, and so they're up again. Also, kind of looking at what we do with more information is I've put tax year 2020 details on here for you, breaking down where Koyo is on its qualified expansion, paying 80% of the ad valorem on one parcel and 100% on the other. But just to give you these totals, this corporate neighbor paid a combined sum of real property for tax year 2020, $54,635.28. And in personal property, they're now paying 80% of the ad valorem on personal property, which is equipment, of course, with respect to one parcel, and 40% with respect to another, which is a combined sum of personal property for $72,197.88. Then they're also on the tax roll for 100% of some additional personal property. And so big thanks, there's a gentleman in the assessor's office who worked with me in great detail, parcel by parcel, map by map, to get all of this. And I'm grateful to him, as in the gentleman who helps with real property. So the combined, that one for 100% is 104,291. So the combined pilot and non-pilot tax payments by COYO totaled for tax year 2020, $231,124.16. So I'll just turn then to the next one, and I'm taking these chronologically for you. This is Dentsply Sirona, which does business as JCM International Inc. To the point that you or the mayor were discussing, this is in Johnson City, but Johnson City's in Washington County, and Washington County actually did this negotiation. It's Washington County IDB. So that one dates back to 2015. We talked about this, I think, at one point as a county attorney report, reminding you that they're in the dental supply business. And they were unable to work, actually, and dentists were unable to work during the COVID and executive orders. So that is a very significant point for this one. This one, you might remember when it was approved, some of you who were on the board, or maybe were on the board then and now serve in other capacities, had an investment component. And so the county actually receives rent from this entity. So I've included in this report from 2019, which was the 5th year of the lease, that the payments had increased to $37,200 annually. Now this past June, they increased to $49,200 annually. And how we monitor that is the trustee treats the lease payment as miscellaneous revenue. He reports it to the county attorney's office. We keep up with that just like any performance requirement, employment deadlines or anything like that. So we look at that throughout the year to monitor that performance. This one was negotiated so that there would be no payments in lieu of taxes prior to the end of the facility lease, which is 2030, unless they did not meet their requirements, performance requirements, at the end of the 5th year, lease year. And so you might recall in September, I think each of you will recall that there was an extension given by the IDB, the Washington County Industrial Development Board, under a legal defense of force majeure, something that was unexpected and not known and they couldn't do anything about, meaning executive orders from the pandemic. I've set that out in your memo, that it included the statement that they remain fully committed to Johnson City and Washington County, that these unforeseeable circumstances, which is the global pandemic, had prevented them from fulfilling the agreement at that time. And that just meant the reporting requirement when that deadline fell. And Tennessee law recognizes this as a legal defense to performance under a contract, and the IDB considered the global pandemic to be qualifying as such, and so they granted that extension. The benchmarks, though, I have included in your memo, is 171 qualifying employees and $13,278,811 in capital investment. And it's actually at the end of this month that we will be hearing from Dentsply with that reporting detail. So turning then to the third one, the most recent one that you might remember from just the other day, is EDM Tax. And so there's an option agreement that's in place, and y'all might remember that. And it, in big broad terms, said that EDM Tax would have an option on certain property in the industrial part, industrial part. And so at that point, the county has already received, I think it's $800,000. And should they exercise the option, the county would receive another $400,000, which is a total of $1.2 billion. You might remember that some of the funding for economic development that this commission has approved has used those funds, that are the IDB's funds. So I've just put out the broad details And at the same time, I think it's interesting for you to remember that they have a temporary facility, EBM PAPS does, over in Johnson City. So they're already up and running, and they did a personal property pilot at the end of 2019. And they purchased, and I put this in your tax year 2020 because this is interesting or notable when we look at the terms, is that they've already invested in personal property, which is equipment in this temporary facility, $1,029,305. So under the terms of the agreement, the county then abated those ad valorem taxes, which would have been $23,130.06. And you might be asking, well, what if they don't build out there? What happens to that money? And then under the terms of the tax agreement, there would be a reimbursement of 50% if they choose not to exercise their option. And so that is the quick summary. I hope it was short and sweet for you on these 3 pilot agreements. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that goes for any day you'd like to call. It's not just now if you don't have them. Anyone? Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. We appreciate the update, and I know that's something we'd wanted done, and she works on that and works very hard to get those back to us, so. All right, our next item is the Director of our Health Department, Dr. Hodgin, if you'd like to come forward. We appreciate you being here.
I don't have a report for you, but I do have a little bit of information that I think you might find useful, so I'll run down for you. We, after a little more than 4 months at the Creighton Hall, we have our final 2 COVID vaccination events scheduled this Thursday, Friday. There's one and a 30-day. We're going to pull that from Creighton Hall and to the health department there, and go back to the point of dispensing that we started with, back to testing on the rear of the building. And we're doing that because the take rates, first dose take rates, have dropped off in the last few weeks for COVID vaccines, and we can handle the volume back at home. Go ahead and do that. However, the results of us working at Freedom Hall the last few months have been significant. To keep up with the numbers, you're looking at about 40% of the county receiving 1 dose of
has been completely vaccinated at this point, which puts us in the top 5 of the state. We've been very, very fortunate to have the area, and we're going to continue. We're not quitting, but we're going to go at a reduced rate. And bring that kind of full circle, this isn't a Washington County only sort of thing. These numbers dropping off like this, it's statewide, and we're getting some information back from the central office about why that might be, and simply it's just with the rapid nature of the way this vaccine was developed, tested and fielded. There's some hesitancy out there. Folks want some time to make sure that it's where we are right now. We're in the lull. We'll continue to offer that vaccine.
How is their supply of vaccine?
Not a problem. We have more supply than we have demand right now.
Hey, Chris, can you mention something about the initiative for business and industry?
Yes. The regional office that's also here in Johnson City is offering up a strike team, basically. If you have a business or an entity that has
All right. Any questions for Dr. Hodgin? Okay. Thank you very much, Chris, for your hard work up there. All right. Our next item is our Director of Schools report. Director Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. Just quickly, just a couple updates. I don't have a written report for you this time. If that's what you want, I'll have one next time. Just tomorrow night, we have a scheduled board meeting and work session, and also a special call meeting around budget. So what I want to update this commission, and particularly the budget committee too, and Mayor Grandy, is we still have not received our BEP estimates. So we will be, what will be in our budget will be conservative estimates based on the last year's unit rates and where we are in enrollment right now. The legislature is still finalizing a bill for hold harmless, which means they would hold us to the enrollment levels of previous school year. And then also there's a discussion about increasing BED funding, so it would reflect something different. We're going to budget with the low end on the revenue, so it'll show lower than what we would anticipate if everything goes through legislature and the increase happens. I just want to put that out there. And then otherwise, we're going to, we're striving to meet the deadline by May 1st to have a budget to Mayor Grandy, and then we'll begin, a lot of the additional work that's involved with passing the general purpose school budget, for next year. But look forward to working with everyone, and I just also want to say, these 3 weeks that I've been a part of the team in Washington County have been great. Everyone's provided such a warm welcome. I'm learning a lot every day. And, I'm just continuing to get more excited about the work that we have in front of us, and look forward to continuing working with all of you. And if there are any questions you have for me right now, I'd certainly be glad to answer.
How's TCAPS doing, Dr. Boyd? Director Boyd, I know we're right in the middle of that, so.
Yeah, good question. Everybody's in good spirits. We have a good participation rate across all of our schools and grade levels. Right now, they're, wrapping up some of the odds and ends with the elementary grades on the assessment, and then beginning high school grade assessment, beginning course assessments. But, as I said, it's good spirits. We really want to, just impress upon everyone, it's just give your best effort so we have a good indication of possibly any negative impacts of this past year, just all of the things that everyone's dealt with. Both in routine and just, emotionally, all the things that everyone's had to manage over the last 12 months. So it's just a good indication to get a benchmark for us when we do get the score back, but it's going well.
Good. So that really when you start looking back at your report cards and stuff like that this fall, those numbers will be back to this fall, right? How will that affect our report card?
Yes, well, that data, if and what's expected, the state will put out a report card on our districts and schools next fall. That data will be reflected. There'll be a lot of caveats about the level of accountability of that data, but, what we do know and what we've seen in the past, even when there's been maybe issues with our assessments, the data still comes out and it should be shared publicly. So we expect that data in some form to be shared next fall.
Well, it's been a tough year for teachers, administrators, and students as well. So I think when we look at those numbers, we need to take that into account and realize what kind of your staff's done a great job through this time, but still, it's been a struggle for students.
Certainly have, and those numbers, they have some importance, but you got to put it into perspective. And really, it's about identifying areas that we can get better. It's more important from that view than it is anything else.
Right.
So we will take what we have and the outcomes from our students this year and all the hard work in a very trying year from our teachers and all those that support teachers, and just use that to build on and move forward.
Well, we appreciate your comments about that testing, and thank you very much. Is there any other questions for Director Boyd? All right. Seeing none, thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate you coming. Next item on the agenda tonight is the Beer Board met. Commissioner Malone is the chairman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our Beer Board did meet. Thanks to those committee members for attending. And we did approve a new permit. Our minutes are on page 8. And the new location is going to be called Nick's Anchor. It is at Jay's Boat Dock, and so I think they're hoping to open in May. So we'll have to go by and check it out. But any questions?
No, thank you for taking the time to work on those that application. I know it went back and forth, and Kathy and Sherry, thank you for your time in getting those done. I know it had to be changed several times, so we appreciate your patience with that, the board. All right, our next item is the CIA committee. Commissioner Carriger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on April the 8th, and the minutes are on page 9. I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody might have concerning those minutes.
Seeing no questions.
All right, we'll move on to the next item. And before we act on the resolution number 210401, I asked Ms. Summers to come up and give us kind of a quick refresher on what we're talking about.
Thank you, Commissioner. Get a mouse from over here. It's nice to see everyone in person.
Yep.
I do, but the problem is I have a thermostat back there and a thermostat up here, and that one back there is messed up, so you're running off of one, and it's trying to pick up the whole room. I can't fix that until that's repaired. We'll have to address the problem.
We'll have to put that on the priority repair list.
Yes, sir, if you would.
Thank you. I've got an exciting project I'm bringing you all this evening, Project STAMP, with a property tax abatement or pilot request. So a little bit about the company. I'm going to go through this really quickly. Sorry, I'm instructed to take my mask off. So this is an international company. They do metal stamping. They began in 1977. They have 26 production facilities worldwide. They employ about 17,500 people. Nice to see that. There's an example of some of the types of products that they make, from bumpers to door panels. And then about the project. So it's competitive. We're competing with Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee. The project will create 206 new manufacturing positions over 2 phases. Phase 1 runs from 2021 to 2025, has a capital investment of about $114 million, and will create about 117 new jobs in that first phase. The second phase, sorry, it's pretty hard to see, is about $30 million, and they'll create another 89 positions. This project will be purchasing, if they make the decision to locate here, the former ALO facility located in the Washington County Industrial Park. Here's a quick snapshot of the facility, and just a little reminder on that building. It's privately owned, and I say that just to remind you all that when it's owned privately as opposed to publicly owned property, we really don't have much say in the type of business that would land in that facility. Here's a breakdown of the capital investment and job creation over the next 5 years for phase 1. And I know you all have had a chance to look at that in your packets. And then phase 2, which runs through 2027, there's a breakdown of the CapEx and the job creation for that one as well. We've talked about economic impacts before, inducing indirect and direct jobs. Here's a quick view of what those earnings might bring over the 5 years, $17.2 million wage impact on the local economy. And so what exactly is the deal? So on the phase 1 of the deal, we've offered a 3-year pilot on the personal property at 100%. And phase 2, 2 years at 100% and then scaled to 10% increments on the real property, and then 3 years again on the personal property. The company will be responsible for 100% of the costs associated with documenting, so the legal fees. And then in terms of accountability, and I know you all are aware we do this on all of our deals, they'll be required to file a report with us annually. Their report will be due January 31st, starting in 2022, and it'll report the number of new jobs created and their average wage, and be certified by a company official. So in the event of non-performance, the company will be required to create 90% of the phase 1 jobs, which would be 105, by the end of 2025 with an average hourly wage of at least $17 an hour. If they don't reach those goals, they'll repay 50% of the benefit of the pilot. Same thing for phase 2, 90%, and then for non-performance, 50% of the benefit as well. And the benefit to Washington County is the creation of the 206 jobs with an average wage of $17 an hour. You can see that we're above the median income. And also, I might note that on phase 2 that we're keeping in the education portion of the tax. Some of you may recall that we did the same thing with EMS. I'm happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Commissioner Ford?
I know y'all do a tremendous job. What I'm asking is this, as a taxpayer perspective, is when y'all negotiate with those folks, do you impress on how important it is to give people from our county first jobs if the people are available?
What we talk to them about is the workforce availability. So we talk in terms of our 5-county labor shed and where they might pull those types of folks that they're looking for in particular. We don't put a caveat on that they have to hire people from Washington County. We don't do that.
Okay.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yeah, as far as asking for it to hire people in Washington County, I think that's illegal. But when I see $17 an hour, is that just calculated on the folks that are hourly workers? Or is salary workers, is their rate of pay broken down and put into that average as well?
That's calculated on the hourly.
So if you're supervising, your supervisor, your plant manager, and those things are on salary, those wages are not included in that average. Is that right?
Particular project, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right. Thank you.
When a building is privately owned. Who is the private owner?
There's an owner out of Chicago, a group of investors that own that particular building. They've had it for, I would say, 10 years or better.
Alicia, this is the second project you've brought us here recently. You know, it's pretty impressive. I mean, thank you very much, and I know you do a whole lot of this work, so I just have to thank you first. I mean, it's you know, the last 2 projects you brought us here, and I don't know how long that's been, but we need to say, wow, thank you.
Well, it is a team effort. I don't think we got to the slide that mentioned the partners on the project, but it ranges from, of course, our partners at the state and TVA, Bright Ridge, and the whole group that's brought around the table with Town of Jonesboro and their water and sewer, Heisinger Hampton, a partner with the engineers that have worked in the industrial park for 2+ decades, the broker that listed the property for those private owners. We've been in communications with him for over a year, and he worked really hard to find a project that would check our boxes as well. So there has been a lot of partners on this particular project already.
Thank you again. Any further questions for Alicia or Commissioner Carrier? Commissioner Malone?
Well, I asked these in committee, but I'll ask them again here. One, what's the time frame when you expect a decision? And 2, are you still feeling pretty optimistic?
The time frame, I would say, would probably be within the next 30 days, give or take.
So soon?
And yes, I'm optimistic.
All right.
Thank you.
Feeling good about it.
That makes us feel good. All right.
Alicia, thank you, and Mr. Chairman, if you will, we have a resolution from out the CIA Committee, resolution number 210401, and it comes to the commission with a motion for approval.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Carrier, seconded by Commissioner Malone to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Questions been called? Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. No voting until we have the mouse back.
Alicia, thank you.
As you notice tonight, while we're waiting for the mouse to wake the screen up, tonight, when I do activate your microphone, your name will light up red. So anytime your microphone is on, it'll be red, except for Commissioner Davenport's, who stays on all the time. So it's just a have-to case tonight. So as you see up there, Commissioner Carragher's mic is on, and his name is illuminated in red. All right, so we have the voting screen up. Now we're ready to vote. Go ahead and cast your vote. Lock it in. All right. Madam Clerk, it has announced the vote, and we have 13 yes, 1 no, and 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Carragher?
Mr. Chairman, we have an update from our Communications Task Force Chairman, and that is Commissioner Huffine.
Oh, congratulations, Commissioner Ratifying.
Thank you. I'll be brief first. Thanks to support and hard work from my fellow commissioners on this task force, we've had 2 meetings so far. I just want to give you a real quick update. We have 3 action items that we'll be bringing in front of CIA committee next week. We have devised what I will refer to as foundational communication process to submit to the full commission after the committee. This will continue to evolve through the process, but at least it will be a starting point for us to start communicating between employees of the county, the citizens of the county, on items that the commission want to communicate. We feel that is communication worthy. Additional to that, we're looking into getting some name tags for all the commissioners when we're out at functions, whether it's ribbon cuttings or whatever the function that we can wear and identify and help build some community relationships, as well as having some business cards to share with those individuals. And then the final thing we're working on is sort of an update on the website relative to our agendas that will be user-friendly, I think is the best term for that. Will allow people, if they have specific items on the agenda, they'll be able to have a timestamp and quickly go and find those items instead of having to sit through 2 hours of a broadcast or something there to find that. And that's the report for today. Any questions? Thank you.
Anything else for Commissioner Carragher or Commissioner Huffine? All right, Commissioner Carragher, if you'll just carry us on to the County-Owned Property Committee.
I'm on a roll, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
We have county-owned properties met twice in April the 8th and April the 16th, and it's a very interesting subject that we're involved in, and the minutes are there, and I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody might have concerning the minutes. Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our report.
Thank you, Commissioner Carragher. The Employee Compensation and Benefits Committee, I serve as chairman there. You'll find the minutes of the April 8th and April 14th meeting in your packet. I had to cut this speaker down up here. It's kind of causing some feedback for me. Is there any questions or I can answer for the committee? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed on to the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. Commissioner Jones?
Chairman, and I'll just take this moment in the platform to say the sound system is fantastic. Thank you, whoever it was that did such a fantastic job.
All that credit needs to go
I'm
to
enjoying
Susan
that.
Saylor.
I appreciate it.
Susan did a lot on this sound system, so I had it on the end of my report today to thank Susan for all the hard work she's done.
Thank you.
It's still a work in progress, though, so
Well, it's a happy day.
it is.
The Health, Education, and Welfare Committee met on April 8th in its regular meeting, and you can see our minutes on page 63. We had a bunch of additional business that goes beyond the resolutions we'll consider tonight, and I hope you'll take the time to look through those minutes. One of the interesting discussions we had was about a joint workshop with the county school board, and we've had some further discussions since the Hugh meeting based on some of the ideas that were discussed in Hugh. And I know that very shortly Chairman Matherly will be helping me post notice that the joint workshop will be held on May 13th at 5:30 at the Jonesboro Visitor Center. And I really hope that's enough notice for all of you to get that into your calendars. I think it's a Thursday night. You may recall that as a body, when we met for our annual retreat, we discussed workforce development as a topic that we wanted to discuss with the school board. And so this workshop will be a joint workshop that really drills down on workforce development, specifically career technical education. And I think we have a pretty good lineup of speakers. I think it'll be really educational, lots to soak in and learn, and hopefully discuss with our fellow elected officials. Okay, and if there are no questions about the committee minutes, then I'll move on to our resolutions, and I'll just quick preamble. The first resolution is one that gives the county the ability to take on a grant that provides services to citizens who are going through recovery court. Judge Arnold came to our meeting. He presides over this work and was present to attest in favor of this resolution. And so I bring you resolution number 210403, resolution authorizing Washington County, Tennessee to execute recovery court cost reimbursement grant contract. This resolution comes with recommendation from Hugh, and I bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Wheeler. Questions or discussion?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
The next two resolutions relate to school funding. So we'd like you to consider resolution number 210404, resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding Washington County Schools nutrition budget. That comes with a recommendation from Hugh, and I bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Fitzgerald to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 abstained, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
The next resolution is number 210405, resolution authorizing certain education capital projects fund expenditures for Gray Elementary School brick repair. This one also comes with a recommendation from Hugh, and I bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Davenport to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion? I know this project's been going on for some time.
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
Resolution is number 210406. Resolution appointing a member to the Washington County Library Board, also recommended by Hugh. I bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Edens to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call the question.
Questions been called. Madam Clerk, go ahead and switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Jones?
This final resolution is related to the Boyles property. We heard a number of their family members and friends speak earlier. And I just want to just recall for you, and this material was also in your packet, this matter came before us for the first time in 2016. And that's when the Broyles members were first issued a citation in order to clean up the property. And as you can see in the resolution, we have revisited this matter a number of times over the last few years, most recently in September of 2020. Some of the reason why this matter repeatedly comes up is because it's a very costly cleanup project, nearly $30,000. The Hugh Committee and Budget Committee on 9/16/20, well, the Hugh Committee previously, and then on 9/16/20, the Budget Committee approved that expenditure. But on 9/28, when we met as a group, we all agreed to defer the matter for 6 months. And so today's meeting is that 6-month period of time. In advance of today's meeting, the Hugh Committee felt it would be a good idea to meet in that smaller venue with the Broyles family and really get a chance to hear them in a small group. I appreciated Commissioner Light coming as he does to advocate for that family. We spent some time really recognizing the Broyles family hardship and doing what we're elected to do, which is to sit in a difficult moment and both balance the challenges of the family and also the needs of the county. It was hard work, and that's, again, what we were elected to do. And so we have this matter tonight, comes back to us because we had all agreed that in 6 months we would bring it back. But Hugh has also asked that you consider a resolution, which basically gives the family 60 days to pursue the cleanup, and at the end of 60 days, the county can come in and do the cleanup. And so that resolution is resolution number 2009-14-A, resolution authorizing spending from fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding environmental court cleanup of property owned by Elaine Ferris Broyles located at 105 R.A. Broyles Road, Limestone, Tennessee. That comes again as a recommendation from Hugh, and I bring it to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Davenport. We'll open the floor up for questions and discussion. Commissioner Lott?
I'd like to request this be dropped, because they've done a lot of cleanup down there, and they've come in conformance. If you want to go down and look, I tried to call Bobby today 3 or 4 times to get him to go back and reconsider. But they have done a lot of work down there that will be in conformance. So I'd rather not move on that tonight than have this dropped, period.
All right. Are you making a motion
Yes, I am.
to,
A request, yes. Drop it, table it, whatever. Give them a chance to go back and check it and reconsider. I guess the proper word would be table.
table or defer?
Table. I was wanting to say so much, I was trying to figure out which word I wanted to say for that one.
Let me have the county attorney clear up one question I have here. And I wouldn't want to steer you wrong.
Yeah. I think if anyone wants to go by there and look at it, they'll see a big change in how much has been actually done.
Steve, I felt like the 60 days gave some time, and if you just leave it for the 60 days, then at the end of the 60 days, there can be a discussion on table or wrong. That's not wrong. That's not wrong.
It doesn't come back.
I couldn't hear all that, what was being said.
The welfare officer could determine their compliance, that it would stop, but it would not come back.
So if he declares that it's in compliance, it don't have to be brought up again.
Right. Yep.
The motion is leave it.
Talking to Allison? I can't see. Come on.
I think that if anyone would go by and check it, they'll find out it's in compliance, even though I know Bobby has to do that. But like I say, I tried to call him 3 times today and couldn't get him. What's the problem? Should I make this speech again? Should I make this speech again?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, look at motion table, see what that is. All right, Commissioner Lott, there's a few technical questions on this vote, so we're going to give it just another minute, so Allison wants to check one more thing, and I do too.
No, she's like,
But you have to stay in the car.
All right, Commissioner Lotta, I think we may have if we table it,
That's the one that matters.
defer and table is, defer, the last time we deferred this for 6 months.
Yes.
If we table it, we would be tabling it until, it says that we would need to consider it again by the end of the meeting, to bring it back from the table for it to be considered again
By the end of what?
by the end of this meeting. Well, what the way this is written, it says that we would have more pressing business to lay this item aside and take care of a more pressing matter. That's what we would be doing. Yes, Commissioner Carter.
Mr. Chairman, I'd kind of like for us to, for our, Bob to have the conversation with Commissioner Lott about is the property in compliance now?
I agree, there is a question
I'd
there.
like to have that conversation before I vote.
And that's why I was trying to get a hold of Bobby today to go check it.
Commissioner Wheeler?
I understand that, and I think they do need to have that conversation, but I think passing this resolution doesn't prevent that. That's why the resolution came to you with 60 days built in for them to get in compliance and Bobby to say it's okay. If Bobby finds it's in compliance, anytime in that 60-day window, he can stop the cleanup. But this has gone on for at least 5 years. It's a little bit concerning to me that it was suggested that we're doing this. I didn't even know about the church. This was going on long before I was elected to the commission, before quite a few of us were elected to or appointed to the commission. And I don't think that's fair to suggest that we're doing this because, again, we didn't know about the church. The general welfare officer of this county 5 years ago, more than 5 years ago now, found this to be not in compliance with our health and welfare codes. He did that because a complaint had been made. We, like every other county in the state, every municipality in the state, enforce zoning by complaint. Complaints made, you investigate. You don't take any kind of action against the citizen unless they're not in compliance. They weren't in compliance then, they're not in compliance now. After 5 years. This thing's been to court, there is no telling what the county has spent. It was suggested that this was a waste of county, by this taxpayer, that this was a waste of taxpayer dollars. I would suggest we've wasted a lot more than what it's going to cost to clean up in court costs and attorney's fees that we've paid with this thing going back and forth to court. I understand her situation, but when I asked her at the committee meeting when she would think that she would get this done, she could not answer that question. And I told her, I said, I understand. I said, I don't think there is an answer to that question. They've done a lot, and they may be able to bring it into compliance. And if they can, then this will stop. But in the meantime, we have a duty to the residents of Washington County to enforce the codes that we set. You know, if we're not going to enforce them, then let's just take them. It's not fair to tell one taxpayer we're going to clean their property up and they're going to have to pay for it, or it's going to be a lien on their property. That's the other thing. It's been suggested she's going to have to write a check for this. I don't think that's true. That's not what our county attorneys told us. That's not what any of us, none of us have said in any of these meetings that that's going to happen. I would suggest that we need to go ahead and move forward with approving this resolution so that we're moving forward. The cost is going to be lower. If what they've said here today is true about the vehicles have been removed, some of this cost will go down. When we get this bid, it will be lower. And they can move forward because we're saying we're not going to spend above a certain amount. but I'd like to see us move this on forward. I'm particularly surprised that commissioners who criticized the Budget Committee for slowing the process of cleanups down while we revamped how we were going to do it and got our cost drastically down on how we do this, want to continually bump this one cleanup. And how do we justify bumping this one cleanup when we didn't bump the other 6 or 7? We went ahead and moved forward and cleaned those up, and those taxpayers now have a lien on their property. I think we're giving them 60 days. We've given them 5 years. There were a lot of people who came in and spoke today, but in the past, when we've been looking at this, nobody's been there to say, yeah, we're going to get this cleaned up. And I think, the fact that we passed this resolution, it's amazing what's been done since we passed this resolution in the Hugh Committee. And I think this is another way to get her to be able to get some help to potentially get it completely done, and if not, the county can come in and do it, and then she's got it taken care of.
Well, they're ready for an inspection now.
I'm sorry, I have the floor. But I would suggest that we vote in favor of the resolution this evening and against any effort to defer it. I'm sorry, but I wanted to finish what I was saying.
That's okay. I suggest that we do not vote for that myself, because they have done what has been asked to do, and they'll do it. It will be in compliance.
All right, hold your comments just a minute. I've got several people left to speak. Commissioner Malone, you were next. Did you want to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Light, I don't know that we know that. I was by this property some time ago and certainly saw, I guess, what our county representative saw and the reason for the citation. But I haven't been by there recently, so I don't know how this body can know that they are in compliance. In fact, I would guess that it is only Mr. France that can inspect it and
That's
say,
right.
yes, it's in compliance. I think the resolution, it does draw a line in the sand, but that line in the sand is not today, it's not tomorrow, it's 60 days out in the future. So if they're not in compliance when Mr. France goes by there in a few days, if they're not in compliance now, they still have additional time to get in compliance. I think the fact that the county has given them 5+ years is significant and noteworthy, and they're still giving them another 60 days. So,
Okay, so I don't mean to interrupt you. I want to make sure we're clear. Y'all don't hear me speak up too much. But if he goes by there and it's in compliance, this will stop at that time. Is that correct?
that's my understanding.
Is that what we're talking about?
As the mayor just said, as long as it stays in, it has to stay, or it can start over.
It would start over, but this matter would be.
This matter would be confronted.
So he goes by and he says it's in compliance, we're done, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner
Thank you very
Ford,
much.
you're next to speak. Commissioner Ford? Yes, Commissioner Ford, you're next.
I'd like to ask, how many of my fellow commissioners has been down at this property and looked at it? And since it's been on the agenda this time? Since it's the process has begun. I was down there Saturday in the rain and looked at it. Nobody knew I was our property. But I'm telling you, from Saturday, from the first time I seen it, it's not even the same place. It's a drastic improvement. It may not be 10, 2, and 4, but it's about 95% better than it was. And I tell you, the lady's 80 years old, and I'm not going to vote against, I put the lien on her property, time for that. She works 2 jobs. Think about your sister, your brother, your mom, or your daddy. Try to put yourself in their place. If you could do this tonight and not table it or put it off, give them a chance to, I don't care if it's been 8 years, I don't care if it's been 5 years, I don't care if it's been 10 years. We're supposed to have a caring heart about us too. I will not and I cannot vote to put a lien against their property tonight.
Well, we're not putting a lien tonight.
Okay, direct your comments to the chair, please. Commissioner Ford, you're about out of order. Okay? Who is next?
Do I need to
Yes.
see this motion?
No, Commissioner, we can't, it would only table it to the end of this meeting.
And at that point, what do we do?
Well, it would come back to the table. So I think we have if we don't defer it or consider some other option such as that, a table would only bring it to the end of this meeting to reconsider. Is that correct, Allison?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
So, I mean, Commissioner Huffine?
Thank you, Jerry. I sit here and all this transpired prior to me joining this commission, but I think after 5 years, we do owe it to the citizens of the county. I hope that I'm not without compassion as well. I try to put myself in that place. My mother's 86. And I can see the stress that it would put on her, as I'm sure it's put on not only Miss Broyles, but the entire family. So I think that we have a moral responsibility to bring closure to this, to remove that stress from her and her family. I think as the resolution is composed, it will do that. You have 60 days. If it's in compliance now, we can get Bobby out there, check it off. The weight of the world is going to be lifted from her and her family. And I think that's what they want. And I think that's what we want. And that's why this resolution is constructed as such. So for that, I'm in complete and full support of that. And I think the family probably would be too. Because they want to make sure they're not putting stress on their mother and the rest of the family.
Can I ask a question? Again, when we get Bobby to go out and check, if it's in compliance at that point, it's done. Is that correct?
Mayor, can you answer that question? Or our attorney?
This particular matter,
Just to be clear, though, that there's a matter open in the courthouse. There's a pending lawsuit against the property owner, and so I would seek clarity from you that to the extent it is cleaned up, that it is then supporting the dismissal of that suit, which is what we normally do when property is brought into compliance. We dismiss the suit. Property owners are still responsible for the payment of court costs. And so just when we talk about all done, that would still be a responsibility of the property owner. But in any case, when the property is cleaned up before the county does the work, we file a dismissal of the lawsuit. And so it is entirely closed unless another citizen brought a complaint forward to the general welfare officer. So I hope that answers your question. And for the family, for their planning purposes.
Do we know when the last inspection was completed at that location?
Yes, sir, we do. And it was prior to the HEW meeting and the photographs that we brought. I wish I was going to see if I have the date here. It was probably within, I would say, 2 weeks before HEW. Does that sound right? I'm looking at Teresa. The Wednesday before. So HEW was at the top of the month. It was, anytime that we bring them, we've just checked a few days before. So I can tell you that it would have been at the end of March, the very beginning of April, right around Easter.
Commissioner Jones, what did he report to the committee that the property condition was in then?
I beg your pardon?
I was asking Commissioner Jones there at the Hugh Committee, did he report that the property had been cleaned up and had no violations at that time?
No, there was some minor progress, but it was not like we're hearing tonight. It sounds like much more happened since the Hugh. And as Commissioner Wheeler noted, at the time of Hugh, there was no expectation or plans to do all this work. I'm sure all of us feel greatly relieved for you all that the work is coming along, and I I'll say again that, part of what I liked about this resolution, and thank you, Commissioner Williams, this was your idea, is that if it's done, it's done. So after 60 days, there's nothing to clean, Like, I don't really know how, you don't have to get legal to think about that. And if there's a small little thing that needs to be done, then that's a small price that the county picks up, as opposed to the larger amount. So it feels very practical to me.
Well, when they came out with such a large amount, it scared me for her.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just too much. And so they got it done. So if it passes this compliance, we can assume that it's done. Okay. Thank you very much.
Can we call the question?
If the question has been called, Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please.
Point of order.
All right, we're voting on, did the motion to table have a second?
Voting on this resolution.
Okay.
I mean,
We're voting on the resolution as
hold on just a minute.
printed in the,
I have that you have a motion from Jones with a second by Davenport, and then there was a request to do something to table it, and I think that may have been seconded by Ford, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second on the table. To table motion. Yes. Yes.
so that's the one we're voting on this
So we'll have to deal with that one first before we can
Okay.
deal with the original resolution.
What first?
The motion to table and your second.
Okay.
Yeah, I changed this thing.
We're going to have to talk to the driver over here. All right, yes,
Could you clarify what a yes vote and a no vote are, just so we're all clear?
I will. That's what I was just making clear with Allison there before we discuss that. This will move it to lay this aside on the table to the end of the meeting to be reconsidered. Yes. The motion to table would. But well, I guess,
There's no such motion that I'm aware of with Robert's rules to just drop a matter. You have to vote it up or down.
yes, that's correct. We do have a motion and motion and second to table. We're getting ready to consider that. Commissioner Malone?
I'm just thinking about the family. I mean, I don't know that tabling this to later in the agenda is going to change the outcome of the vote, whatever the outcome is. And it just has the family here for a longer period of time. I see family nodding. I think they would rather us, I guess I'm arguing against the motion.
Yes, you're arguing with the,
Unkind to the family to force them to wait to the end of the agenda.
we're getting ready to vote on it right now, whichever way you want to vote. Commissioner Huffine?
Just a point of clarification, make sure I'm correct. A vote yes, table. A vote no does not table it, which therefore we can immediately follow by picking up the original motion and a vote on that.
Commissioner Huffine, you explained that better than me. So, Madam Clerk, let's switch to the voting screen, and let's take a vote. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. No one yes? 13 no, 1 absent, and the motion fails. All right,
This is not the
we're
table.
back.
I want to vote to get it down.
Okay, now we're back to the original resolution.
The appropriate call for the question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, the question's been called. We will be going back to the original resolution 2104. I think I'm on the wrong page here now.
I didn't want
2104, 121. All right. Commissioner Jones, will you read that definition for us of that resolution again, please?
The title of the resolution, it's Resolution 2009-14A, and this resolution authorizes spending from fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding environmental port cleanup of property owned by Elaine Ferris Broyles, located at 105 R.A. Broyles Road, Limestone, Tennessee.
All right. Okay, so do we all know what we're voting on? Which resolution? Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. If we vote yes, we're voting to put this on them.
Yes. In 60 days, is what I think is what it said. They had 60 days to come into compliance. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Into compliance,
With no penalty against them,
within that 60 days,
within that
yes.
60 days.
But after 60,
Court costs, we will pay the court costs. Any way we do this, they're going to be doing that at some time.
Any way we do it.
As far as I know.
So a yes is delay it 60 days to give them a chance to get it done, and all they will ever have is the court cost.
yes, but after 60 days, the county would have the option to clean it up.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
All right. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, it looks like you've already switched us. Thank you. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 12 yes, 2 no, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. All right, now we'll continue on. Was there anything else on your report, Commissioner Jones?
No, that's all. Thank you.
All right, our next report is the Public Safety Committee report. Commissioner Wheeler?
Chairman, last meeting minutes are found on page 126 of the packet, and we have nothing for the commission to act on tonight, so that would be our report.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Wheeler? Okay, seeing none. The Public Works Committee report, Commissioner Davenport?
Yes, you'll see, you'll find our minutes of April 8th meeting with the attachments on page 137. We have 2 resolutions coming before you tonight, both in the form of a motion. First is, as we consider resolution 210407, resolution authorizing the disposition of highway department surplus property on government.
All right, do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Carriger. Discussion or questions?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. I think Commissioner Lott has stepped out of the room. Yeah, he'll be absent. Okay, if we just show him absent, if we can correct that, that's fine. Okay. All right, we have 13 yes, one absent, or two absent, and the resolution passes.
Next resolution is resolution number 210408, resolution accepting Prospect Way and Alding Lane, Washington County roads in the 12th Civil District.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Davenport, do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. All right, we have 13 yes, 2 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Davenport?
Any questions?
All right. Commissioner Davenport, if you'll just carry us on into the Water Task Force report.
You'll find our meeting minutes with attachments on page 148. Any questions?
Seeing no questions? Thank you, Commissioner Davenport.
Scheduled for next Thursday.
All right. We-
Oh, I'm sorry, this Thursday.
All right, we will move on to the Budget Committee report. Commissioner Wheeler?
You'll find our minutes from the April 15th Budget Committee meeting on page 149 of your packet. I would mention to you, we've had 2 other budget meetings since then to begin the process of this year's budget, meeting with elected officials and department heads. So that process has begun. We have several resolutions for your consideration tonight. The first one is resolution number 210409, resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding funding for retiring employees paid up life insurance, found on page 163 of your packet. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Kate to approve the resolution. Is there discussion or questions? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 abstained, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Resolution is resolution 2104.
410, a resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding funding for retiring employees paid up life insurance. This is found on page 165 of your packet, and comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion?
Call for question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 abstained, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
The next resolution is resolution
21-04-11, resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding Washington County Health Department State of Tennessee Chronic Disease Grant, found on page 167 of your packet. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Malone to approve the resolution. Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us over to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution is resolution number 21-04-12, resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding annual Cisco umbrella enterprise cloud network security subscription for 300 users. Found on
Page 170 of your packet, this comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler to approve the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Malone. Discussion or questions?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, you announced the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
I have to look at it. Let me get over to it in just a second. Our next resolution is Resolution 21-04-13, a resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-21 regarding allocating $65,890 for line item coverages, found on page 172 of your packet. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Kate to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions? Commissioner Jones is called for the question. Madam Clerk, switch us to the voting screen and go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our next resolution is resolution number 21-04-15, resolution ratifying Washington County, Tennessee's application for an execution
Of a Tennessee CESF grant, video arraignment grant. Found on page 175 of your packet, this comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Ford to approve the resolution. Do you have a question or discussion?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
Our final resolution is resolution number 21-04-16, a resolution amending fiscal year budget 2020-2021 regarding replacement of Glendale Bridge, found on page 199 of your packet. This comes as a recommendation from the committee, and I move for its approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Wheeler, seconded by Commissioner Lott to approve the resolution. Questions or discussion?
Call for the question.
Question has been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes. Commissioner Wheeler?
That concludes our report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Been struggling with this microphone a bit with Commissioner Wheeler. For every time we switch screens and vote a different time, and it comes back, it cuts off the microphone. Did you notice that? So I have to push it again and restart it, but we're learning, so we're good. All right, next couple of items. We have no other business to report. We do have Resolution 210414 is a resolution approving the election of notary public for appointment and reappointment for Washington County, Tennessee. Do we have a motion? Motion made to approve by Commissioner Lott. Second by Commissioner Jones to approve the resolution. Discussion or questions?
Call for the question.
Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. "14 yes, 1 absent, and the resolution passes. We have no new business to report to you. The cutoff date and time for next month's county commission agenda is Thursday, May the 13th at 12 noon. Remember, the joint meeting of the county commission and the board of education to talk about CTE will be May 15th, 5:30 at the visitor center. You may get a box meal, you may not. No, I'm just kidding. You may get a box meal. Just be there at 5:30. Thank you once again to Susan Saylor for all her work on the voting system this month and getting our sound up and running. If there's any questions or comments before we leave tonight? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Commissioner Carriger, seconded by Commissioner Kate. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign.